My name's Steve Ensell. I'm an education officer with the British Association of Landscape Industries. So we represent probably around about 1,000 landscapers throughout the UK. And one of our initiatives is Go Landscape, which is to promote the opportunities within the landscape industry. So for the next 10-15 minutes, we'll do a whistle-stop tour through what a career in the landscape industry might look like for you. And if it's not something you've thought about, then hopefully we'll be able to persuade you to consider it. So I'm sure you've been asked this question throughout the week, but you've got the difficult decision of deciding what you want to do next, what you're going to go on to do in terms of when you leave school, whether you're going to go on to academic studies, to do apprenticeships, those sorts of things. So let's have a think about what the landscape industry might be able to provide for you. So when we talk about landscaping and what it actually means and what it does, I would describe it in the following way. It is the planning, the laying out, the construction and the maintenance of gardens and green spaces. So everywhere that you look around you, from perhaps your own back garden, right the way through to the big parks that you see around you, or to the commercial green spaces that might surround businesses, landscapers would be involved in some form or another. That is from the planning stage and the designing stage, right the way through to the laying out and the construction of those spaces. And also then, because it's a green space and it's full of plants, it's not going to stand still. It's going to continue to grow and to evolve. And so there tends to be teams of people that will go in and look after those spaces as well. So that's very briefly how we could sum up what the landscape industry is. So think about it on a slightly bigger scale than just your back garden. There are lots of different avenues that you could slot into. So what do landscapers do? I think pictures are more powerful than me talking. So if we look at something like that, we can instantly see we've got this lovely new property that's been built, but there's something missing. The green space that connects it with its surrounding environment and softens it. So you can see then the radical difference that landscapers make. They really enhance the property. We're sitting in a construction section here. You've probably had a few talks about the construction side of it in terms of buildings and things like that. What I'm interested in is showing you how we can enhance those buildings, the work that goes on around that, if you like, the outdoor room that connects the building to the environment around it. So instantly you see that picture in the background of those trees, but then what happens is that grounds that are created there in the form of a landscape tie it in quite nicely with its environment. So landscapers will be working in a number of different ways to provide that service then and to add that to a home or a property. Let's think about what's missing here. This again is not a very inviting space, is it? So what's great about landscapers is they come in and they will work with the clients, they will work with the people that they're going to work for to design and put in a space that's going to tick a box for them. This is a residential home. You'll notice it's all on one floor. So what the landscaper's got to consider here is the person that's going to use that space. So that what happens is they weren't able to put grass in this particular one because they wanted a nice solid floor that people could move around in. But instantly you can see there is a massive difference. It's an inviting space. People will happily, hopefully, come out and spend some time in that space as opposed to the previous way in which it looked. If we just divide up the landscape roles, I would divide it up into 4 sections. We have what we call the hard landscaping. Hard landscaping is the construction element. We call it hard landscaping, not just because it can be quite difficult to do, but also because actually it's there in terms of the materials that are being used. So the materials that are being used tend to be things like your paving stones, your brick walls that are going to be put in. So that's what we call hard landscape construction, the bones, if you like, and the framework that goes into that green space. Then we have the soft landscaping. That's the introduction of the plants that go in, the turf that might go down. And as we've already hinted at before, we have the maintaining of those spaces once they're complete, the people that go in and look after those spaces, that cut back the plants at the appropriate time, that replace plants, that will make sure that they're healthy and growing correctly and safely. And I guess maybe we should have started here. We have the design process, the people that design that space, the landscape architects, the garden designers that work with the people to design a space that's going to work for everybody involved. If we think about where landscaping sits, it sits under the horticulture umbrella. So you can see there that we've got a good chunk of people that are employed in horticulture. And landscaping makes up nearly half of the people that are employed in the horticulture industry. You've got other things like retail, tourism, arboriculture, ornamental plant production, garden goods manufacture, and wholesale side of it. But when we think about the landscaping side of it, what we're looking at here is an industry that's worth around £6.8 billion a year. We're looking at around about 196,000 people that are directly employed in the landscape industry, let alone the subcontractors that are involved. And the interesting thing is that Barley members, when we talk about the landscapers that are members of our association, are forecasting a 59% increase in their work over the coming years. So it's a healthy industry to join in terms of the money it generates, the people that are employed, and also to know and understand that actually, there's going to be a job for you because they're seeing an increase in what's taking place. The other thing that's exciting about the landscape industry as well is that we're seeing an interest in putting in green spaces where traditionally you can't get one. So we're looking at roof gardens, we're looking at green walls. We're seeing these in cities particularly, that landscapers are learning the skills to be able to install these particular features. So there will be elements where they can construct inside spaces to put in green walls, or even on the outside of buildings where they can't put a traditional garden. And it means that people can still enjoy these spaces and get the benefits of that. And that's what's great. One of the great selling points, I guess, is that this role is one of the jobs that's going to help you and impact climate change and help reverse it by planting more plants and letting them do their job and increasing them. It means that we do well out of it in terms of our mental health and well-being in spending time in those green spaces, but it also helps the planet overall. So it's a job that really kind of has those environmental overtones that helps us do those elements of it. Looking very briefly at where we're thinking about the skills going forward, when we look at what a skilled worker in the landscape industry will have, we're looking at that machine, being able to operate and use machinery. We're looking at the importance of health and safety, the hard and soft landscaping, and as we've already pointed out, the environmental awareness as well. This is where we see the industry going forward. So that orange line represents the future and the blue line represents the current state of things. So all of those things we're looking to see as important things for the future, and all those various other different elements that are coming in as well throughout there. So we can see there are lots of skills that we're looking for when we're looking to train up people to come through into the landscape industry. One of the biggest things that a landscaper will do is to solve problems. They're solving somebody's problem in some form or another. They want a green space, but they don't know how to go about getting that in there. So what will happen is a landscaper will come in and solve that problem for them. They're looking at thinking outside the box, of doing things a little bit differently, of creating a space that really suits the client, but also kind of ticks that box that it works with the environment that's around it. You get to use an incredible array of tools. So it's a very practical, hands-on, if you're on the ground, so to speak, and constructing those spaces. And it's incredibly creative. You get to see what you've done at the end of the day, to see that you've made a difference, that you've created a space that wasn't there before, that's going to stand there probably for many years to come, that you can be proud of. And I think as well, there is an analytical element to it as well. Maths plays a huge role in landscaping, from working with ratios right the way through to working with, designs at a scale, to mapping out and making sure that all your levels and depths and things are correct throughout the entire job. And we can see there that there's a whole host of skills that landscapers employ, everything through from site surveying, creating and working from designs, working with different levels, brickwork, paving, decking, pergolas, installing different water features, and the plant knowledge alone is a subject on its own, and also the maintenance. And there are whole companies that have set themselves up to do nothing but maintenance, or even specialise purely in lawn care. So a broad range of skills. So you're never going to be bored in being a landscaper, and no two jobs are the same. In terms of qualifications, we've got everything through from entry level right the way through to degrees. You can study full-time levels from anywhere from level 1 through to level 3. We've got apprenticeships at level 2 and 3, and a level 5 apprenticeship on the horizon, hopefully launching next year. We've got horticulture and garden design degrees. We've got landscape architecture if you want to go off and study that. So a broad spectrum of qualifications that you can choose to do. And I guess thinking about why you might enjoy this particular role. For me, it's the big number one appeal there is working outside, being outside, not necessarily stuck in an office all the time. You've got the creative and artistic side that you're doing things that, you get to kind of build things and make things. You've got the innovation, as you've seen in the green walls and the roofs that are taking place. We've got the impact on the world and the environmental influences. You're making a difference in people's lives with these green spaces. It's a physical, active and healthy job. You get to, carry all kinds of different materials around and dig out spaces to make sure they're happening. So it keeps you very healthy. And for me, you're making a massive difference in people's lives, certainly from the point of view of the space that you're creating, they're going to be able to enjoy. Diverse range of work as well, as hopefully you've seen all those skills. So if you look at the average landscape job, all those different elements. So you've got a broad range of skills you're there. And a lot of people go on to set up their own businesses and be their own bosses in that. I ran a landscape company for 9 years and really enjoyed the challenges of that. That is my whistle-top tour of landscaping. I just wanted to see if there was any opportunity to take any questions. I'd highlight perhaps considering going to the Go Landscape website there to give you a little bit more information about what we do and the roles that are available.